Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is you're listening to the show. Welcome and welcome to the energies of 2023. We are here. We made it. We are in a new energy of more light. That is what I'm so excited to talk about. We're going to be talking today about predictions, so insights and snapshots of understandings for 2023. Now, I want to say too, though, specifically with snapshots, and this is, that's what I call it, but predictions, premonitions. Premonitions and predictions are essentially a snapshot of the highest probability in the moment in which that snapshot is taken or received, right? So the messages that I'm getting are the highest probabilities that Spirit can give right now, but because we live in a world that is of free will, that is one of the essential moral codes of what it means to be human, is to have free will to choose. Things can change depending on what the collective energies end up doing. So I do want to say that, but these are the highest probability snapshots that Spirit can give me right now. And many of them will be really accurate because many of them we are on a really solid trajectory to see and experience. And some of them we'll see how much we can bring in this year, and some may have to filter into the next few years, but we also may be surprised to gain more in this year than was predicted. So that's the cool thing about predictions. These snapshots come from universal collective energy. It's like I can kind of step into that frequency and like I said, take a picture and then look at the picture and see what it's sharing. These are also insights from the 3 guides of the light that I channel regularly. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm really excited to do so. We're going to be kind of talking about the 3D predictions, so 3rd dimensional predictions, and then also 5th dimensional ones. And I separated them a little bit because it actually made a little more sense to see it that way. And then it's you who gets to choose which level you want to perceive them from or experience them from, because really, that's going to be up to you. And that is how the energy of the light works. So let's just talk about that first. The energy of the light is really going to be working in our favor this year for 2023. And that was kind of the key term for this year that I got from Spirit, was return of the light. Now, we did talk about this in Cosmic Consciousness on the solstice, December 21st. So if you guys are wanting to deep dive into big spiritual concepts with me, I do that monthly. You can sign up at avalonspirit.com under Cosmic Consciousness. And we check in once a month with Spirit about the latest things coming down the pipe, whether that be aspects of consciousness, new insights for 3D world, new insights for 5D world, what's changing on the planet, understandings about different things like ETs or time, space, reality, or time bending, portals, you name it, consciousness of water and elements, all of that kind of stuff is what we talk about. So I don't want to tangent too far on that, but if the things we're talking about today are of real interest to you, you may want to check out the Cosmic Consciousness Circle, and you can sign up for a year. That's a cheaper way to do it. So definitely check that out. So coming back to the key term. So key term for 2022 was embodiment. It was about how are you going to embody all the things you've been learning, but instead of just knowing them, you're actually going to embody them, to be them. So that's what 2022 really asked us to do, right? We were asked to kind of step into who we want to be, and we're going to be continually asked that, to be refining our embodiment always. But 2022 was a big year to really pull up our pants, right? What pants do you want to wear, kind of thing. And so that's what we were in, and now we're stepping in an energy, and the term they gave me was return of the light. Return of the light within you, and return of the light of Spirit, and how much it can work in your favor. And this is a really exciting thing. So with this return of the light, we have to consider that from a 3D perspective, we may experience this return of the light as non-existent, depending where you are, depending what's going on for you. But if you step into a 5D perspective, you'll see that the light really is working in favor. Okay, so considering that being the container, return of the light, let's talk first about some of the things that we're going to see changing in 3D. So This is what the guides brought through. They said that 3D this year, we're still in the fast-paced ascension of 100 years condensed into 4 years. So we have another year of condensed ascension and awakening. So we know, looking from the past few years, that means a lot of changes, a lot of shakedowns, a lot of crumbling, in some cases confusion. But where we felt confusion, we're starting to learn more through our embodiment how to interpret what's going on. We're starting to learn not to become so afraid of what we're seeing, but rather tune into self. What do I feel about this? What do I know about this? And having patience and surrender to watch more things unfold while checking into, what feels aligned for us and not getting caught up in the fear. So we're going to be seeing more of that. We will be seeing more cosmic disclosure, more galactic, ET, extraterrestrial, UAPs, UAUPs, UFOs. There's so many terms for it. Galactic races of beings is really what I'll say. And the reason for that is collectively in third dimensional reality and understanding, we are needing to step into a 5D understanding that we are not the only inhabited beings on the singular planet in all of the galaxies of galaxies within the universe. Right? Statistically speaking, there are millions of galaxies, and within a galaxy there are hundreds or thousands of planets, and to think that out of all of those there is only one Earth, just our Earth, inhabited with people, is not really probable, right? It is more probable to say that there are other inhabited planets and places, some in lower consciousness, some in higher consciousness, and we are stepping into this becoming a known reality in 3D because we are meant to be moving out of a global community into a galactic community, right? So when we look at a global community, we can look at our world and see how global we are now with the internet, with airplanes, with shipping systems. We are very global. If we need something from another country, we can attain it. We know that. And it's not just corporations that can attain it, but like the layperson can attain it, especially with Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all of those things. We are very globally connected. So we're moving from that into a galactic level of connection. How fast that will happen, I don't know exactly, but I do know that more disclosure in ways that can prove the reality of other galactic beings is coming into play, and it is meant to. Spirit shows me like another wave of it coming in to shore so that we can become comfortable with the fact that we are a part of a greater galactic system. And so one of the things we have to really remember as that comes out in 3D will spin it with a fear narrative often. And we have to remember to take out the fear narrative because from my understandings, the majority of the other galactic communities that we are in fact a part of, that just isn't spoken about, are here to help humanity ascend into 5D consciousness just as they have, and as we will. Once we do, we will help other global systems ascend into galactic communities. So that's going to be one. So we're going to see more cosmic disclosure, more understanding. So when you hear those things, really check the fear narrative that comes with it. Check the spin put on it, because oftentimes that spin is another form of control. It's like we'll leak a little bit of information, but we're going to make you fear it so we can use it in our favor. And really, it's about surpassing that. It's about just the knowledge that, we don't have to fear people from another country. We don't need to fear that. We can have our own sense of knowing, our own moral code, our own boundaries, and interact as we need. The same thing goes with that idea in the galactic community. I am simplifying it just because I have several things I need to talk about. But if you guys want to know more about that, I can do a whole podcast on that as well. So something to keep in mind. Another thing we're going to see in 3D, we will see new tech in energy and light. So we saw a little bit of this in December with the emergence of the free energy, nuclear free energy. We're going to be seeing more things like that, but Spirit wanted to specifically mention, though, light therapies. So we're going to see more emergence of laser type therapies to help correct illness. And they said correct illness specifically to change the frequency through light and help heal our bodies. Part of that is our knowledge of how much sunlight actually does benefit our bodies. And I'm not talking about laying out in the sun and baking your skin. That's not what I mean. But when we consciously connect with sunlight, we can breathe it in and allow it to fuel us and change the frequencies of our cells in sort of a way. They're like, you could compare it to how plants essentially kind of eat it in photosynthesis, but we can bring it into our beings to help fuel us as well. But it's not limited just to the sun, but we will see new technologies of different types of laser therapies to help correct illnesses. So keep an eye out for that too. I find that really interesting. They're also showing me ways that more surgeries can be done through lasers versus cutting the body too. And I'm also seeing it as like almost like ultrasonic pulse energy too through light. So non-invasive, not even needing to cut with a laser light type thing, but light pulses. So keep an eye out for that new tech stuff like that. It's going to be really interesting. New ways to use energy, new ways to harness energy, they're saying as well. They're saying this also relates to how we can treat water through light and all of that. So lots of stuff coming up with more renewable resources. We're going to see more of that coming up. The other thing they're saying we're going to see in 3D, the third point that I want to make, is an increase in community initiatives. So we will start to see an emergence of more people creating initiatives that catch fire, essentially, that catch the awareness of a lot of people, that are for the betterment of communities, different kinds of communities. So more focus, more collective focus is going to be put into these 3D initiatives so that we are in fact changing from the ground up the way we work within communities. It's really time, they're saying, to step out of the singular I am presence where we know ourselves into the we are presence, which I started talking about last year, which is realizing how interconnected we are with everybody. We are not separate from. We have a false belief that we are separate from, and we feel separate from because we're embodied in a dense body that technically, is separated from somebody, but we're actually not energetically. So that's why we're moving from this I am presence. We know this I am presence, we embody it, but we're stepping now into the we are presence, realizing we are connected to all things. Now, these community initiatives aren't just limited to people, like people-to-people contact. It's also community initiatives with the forests, with the oceans, with the mountains, with the animals, with the insects. There's going to be different, greater initiatives. There are already a lot, but we will be seeing more of them catching fire, like Spirit says, where more attention is drawn to those initiatives. So look to see what is growing now. We saw a lot of crumbling, but Spirit is saying because of all that crumbling, look to see what is growing now. Just like when a forest fire happens and then a couple of years later you look to see how much has actually taken root and what shoots are coming through. There are more community initiatives coming. So I say that because, like I said in the beginning, we're going to see more 3D confusion, crumbling, change, some pieces of shock value. There is an emphasis on financial markets being roller coaster-like is how I see it, topsy-turvy. But within that, we're also going to see the good sides. And again, that is more cosmic disclosure, new tech initiatives in energy and light laser therapies, plus community initiatives that really benefit the whole planet, not just the people. And I love that because we're moving beyond just people helping people, but we're recognizing as well our connectivity with Gaia, with the planet, with insects, with animals, with the elements. It's all connected. So we're going to see that. The last one they're showing me right now too, which I hadn't had on my list, but they're saying in connection to that community initiative, we're also going to be seeing a lot more ancient influence to how we interact with our environment. And I think that's really cool. So we'll see a lot of like indigenous principles as well as ancient principles. And they're showing me like scrolls and texts and kind of cave paintings knowledge that has been there for so long, that has been dormant. We're going to see more of that coming up to the surface within these community initiatives of how to interact, again, not just with the people, but with the planet. So I find this very, very exciting. So those are some of the things to focus on in 3D. Now, in terms of 5D, we're seeing a lot of really neat things happening. And so one of the things we're going to be seeing in 5D is a return or emergence of the divine masculine in the collective. I find this really exciting. We're starting to see some of this already with people in positions of power. Now, this is not specific to male embodied people. We will see it more in male embodied people, but it is not solely that. This is not just a man versus woman or gender versus gender. This is a masculine polarity. So we have had a high frequency of the feminine essence, the curvilinear, expressive, creative, colorful side. And now we're seeing an emergence with consciousness of the linear, action-oriented, procedural, that kind of like get it done energy coming forward. But that will show itself more through the masculine energy. So there could be people that don't identify with any specific gender, but they are bringing forth an energy of a very masculine consciousness connecting to what it is they're wanting to create or do. Or you could see it in somebody embodied as a female coming in with very decisive action points, action potentials in consciousness of what they want to do and why. So we're going to be seeing that, but we will also be seeing this in those that are embodied in positions of power that are embodied as male, coming through with a compassionate but forward thinking, forward moving ideas, energies, and all of that. It's a rising of this balancing of the female and the male collective energy so that we essentially can have wholeness. Because wholeness is where it's at. It's not about one way, taking precedent over the other. There may have been a time where one was leading the other, but we are wanting to come back into wholeness. And that is because it leads into my next point within 5D energy, which is changes in relationships. So this, I say 5D, we may also really notice this in our 3D world, but it's because of a very 5D thing. So these changes in relationships, we will see ourselves in our lives and the collective getting into more alignments. And Spirit showed this to me kind of like Tetris. You know the Tetris game where you're trying to fit the shapes into the right spot? We will see more meetings and unions for many people. Changes in relationships and the frequencies between them. So for some people that already have established relationships, they may find that there is more cohesion, more partnership, a deeper merging between the two parts in a balanced harmony, because we have been working towards this alignment. And we're going to see a ton more of this in 2024, but we are stepping into this energy now. And so this is not just romantic partnerships. I do want to say this can very much be romantic partnerships. So for many of you, you may really be bringing forward that divine partner. But this can also be in different business partnerships. And I can speak for myself as an example with that is, me meeting my business partner, Lois, at Avalon Spirit. Avalon would not be possible without Lois. And so that was a very divinely aligned and timed meeting with her. And so I say that because these changes in relationships, these divine alignments are across the board. But I will also say there is an emphasis on romantic relationships because 2024, like I said, is really a year of embodied relationships. But we'll get to that closer to 2024. So again, notice how relationships are changing for you this year. Allow the ones that are wanting to fall away from you to fall away if need be, because within that surrender and letting go, there's an opportunity for a lot of transformation. And that transformation may then bring it back, or it may allow it to move on. In either way, the place that you're moving is forward. So notice how relationships are changing for you and follow your authentic truth of what feels right and what feels grounded. Okay, now the next thing we're going to be seeing is, this is something I was kind of mentioning before in the beginning, is that the light will work with most flow and in favor of those who can recognize it. So what I mean by that is this idea of the return of the light. Not only is it desiring to shine from within us outward, us recognizing more of our own light, who we are, and that's because of all the embodiment we did, but this is like the spirit world, the energetics of the universe is really going to work in favor of those who recognize their own light and are willing to work with it. It draws more light. And so a lot of light workers, pretty much all of you listening to the podcast here, this means you, light workers, starseeds, those that are connected to their galactic families, like those that know they're here for a reason, for a purpose. This energy this year is going to work in your favor. It doesn't mean there won't be some speed bumps along the way, maybe some rerouting, but it's going to reroute you for a better path. So it's going to work in favor as long as you keep your perspective as such. You'll block it. We will all block it. I will block it if I start to doubt or fall into victim mentality, right? We talked about that before. So staying in the light and recognizing your connection with the light is going to be big because it will pay itself back tenfold. And so I want to say too that somebody, a light worker, for example, is not just somebody that is spiritual or a medium or a healer or an astrologer. Anyone who is aligning with their purpose, their authentic self, following the call of their soul, following what they're drawn to do, and maybe that's, volunteering at your kid's school. Maybe that's creating initiatives within your work environment for recycling, for helping out charities. Maybe it's the work you do as a doctor. Maybe it's the work you do as a teacher, and you're a really good teacher who's making a difference in the lives of their students, whether they're in grade 12, university, or kindergarten. Right? Like, again, like we were saying in the beginning, what you do with you is what matters. You have to follow your journey. Your embodiment the last year in 2022 is what's bringing you to be able to work with the light now. That's where you're going. So that leads me into my next thing, which Spirit said, really keep your perspective goggles clean. Your lenses, the lens that you choose to view your reality through, keep that clean. And the way that this will happen is Spirit will continue to ask you what it is you want and why. And so when they first started bringing this up with me, I was kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you still asking me the same questions of what I want to manifest, what I want to create, what my goals are? Because they kept repeating it, and they're like, because we're going to continue to do this. This is going to be a theme in 2023 so that we can get as specific as possible of what we're hoping to create. We can manifest it with the most ease, but we can also realign when needed. So the more that they ask us, the more we can refine and get really aligned into the path that we want. So instead of being annoyed by it when it comes up, see it more as like, oh yeah, okay, let me double check. Is this what I want? Yep. And oh, you know what? Actually, I want to change this one a little bit. I want to tweak it. And you get a chance to tweak it for the better, meaning better alignment. So they're saying be assertive in your choices, be conscious in your choices, be choosy, because all of this is allowing you to refine your perspective. And that goes by keeping your goggles clean. So meaning, when you catch yourself in a victim energy or a really angry energy, which will happen, that is normal, take the time to take off your metaphorical glasses, clean them up. Find the things you need to clean them up. Use your tools to clean up your energy, to clear it out, to ask it what it needs. That will help you refine. Now, I also want to say that many of you will realize that you are living in kind of hybrid realities right now. And what I mean by that is many of you, pretty much all of you listening to this, you're not just sitting in third dimensional reality. Your consciousness is moving from 3D to 4D to 5D to 4D to 3D to 5D. It's a hybrid right now as we're making the transition of the collective into 5D reality. We live in this hybrid, moving, constantly evolving 3, 4, and 5D. So just recognize that, because anytime you find yourself feeling very 3D about something, or you catch yourself in a victim energy or something, it's not because you've fallen back or anything like that. It's You're maneuvering through the changing times right now. And because we are changing and growing, we are changing and growing in and through those multiple dimensional levels of consciousness. So your consciousness will move and ebb and flow. So just consider that. Now, connecting into that and how I was saying Spirit is going to ask us to refine, it brings me to my second to last point. I have one more point after this. Second to last point is you will be asked to also act on your embodiment. And so you will be asked to embody who you are. And what that is doing is it's going to help you refine how you show up in the world. So not just what you want, which is Spirit asking you what you want, but you'll be asked to embody who you are. And the more you embody who you are, the more natural that becomes. And that feeds into the more natural way you feel connected to your alignment, your truth, and your purpose, which connects into then you feeling more peaceful, right? It all feeds in, it's all connected. So you will be asked to embody more who you are and act on it, how you show up in the world. And a key part of that is going to be how you manage your life force energy. So our life force energy has been under a constant state of drain over the last few years because we have been moving so fast through the changes of 2020 to 2024, right? 100 years of change and growth and ascension in 4 years means we are moving at Mach speed through ascension, change, and growth. And that's kind of like living in a state of trauma response, essentially on an energetic level. We can only hold a state of adrenaline response for so long before it starts to drain our cortisol response to the point where we hit a burnout, right? So our life force energy is like cortisol. And when we run out of life force, just like when we run out of cortisol, we bottom out and we need to take way more time to recover. So just as we know to try and balance our cortisol and not be in fight or flight all the time with adrenaline, we also need to balance out our life force energy. The way to do that is to find and align with what brings you the feeling of passion and the feeling of purpose. And that's again why Spirit is going to ask you to embody and show up who you are, because you're showing up in your authentic self, which is directly connected to passion and purpose. And so we will find those pieces of passion and purpose in our relationships, in what we do in our job, how we are as a caregiver, what we do as being a change maker, our gifts and abilities, all of those things, but they directly feed your life force. So notice moving forward what feeds into your life force and what pulls away your life force. Notice what that is, and then you can get very, again, choosy, consciously choosing what you interact with and what you don't, because your life force will be a direct piece connecting to the amount of light that you bring in, okay? Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is this year is also going to bring us high manifestation ability. And this one I'm really excited about because it's quite simple. It's if we work with the light and we work with our light within, as well as the light outside of us in the universal energies, we are going to be in a higher state of flow. A higher state of flow means more manifestation. So your ability to manifest is going to be big this year. So working with those higher levels of consciousness, like new moons and full moons to make it easy, those two alone, when you work and you set your intentions, you tune into the energy, you tune into your energy, and you express what it is you want to create and the steps you're going to take to do it, you have a high ability to manifest, excuse me, to manifest more. So, I'm going to leave it at that for now, for today. I think my voice is saying that's about enough. So I hope this helps bring you guys some peace, some tools, some insights to help direct your path moving forward. Again, take the parts that resonate. The ones that stand out are the ones that are meant for you specifically. And if they all did, fantastic. If just one did, then that is your point of focus right now. And this is something you could come back to multiple times in the year to kind of check in and see where you're at, because you may find you're really focused on the first few points that I said, but then by summertime you listen back and you realize you've moved through those parts and you're on the next bunch. So something to consider as we kind of move through these energies this year. It's going to be a good year. I have heard some other intuitives talking about how challenging this year is going to be, how difficult, how soul crushing. And if that's the perspective you want to hold with it, then that's great. That's part of your journey. But we also can choose to navigate, like I said, these ups and downs, these changes that we're still in, with a different lens. And we can choose to come back to a place of calm. And we can constantly choose to come back to a place of conscious choice. What am I going to do about this now? What are my tools? What are the things going on? Because Spirit is saying, again, there is so much now that has already been planted that is starting to grow on our planet in 3D. And we can choose to water that garden as well. Instead of just looking at the chaos, we need to water the garden of new growth. And those are exciting things. So I will leave that with you guys. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me on the show. I appreciate it big time. I have a lot of great things coming down the pipe for the show this year. Some wonderful interviews with all kinds of different people, different perspectives, experiences, all of that, plus a lot more insights coming from Spirit. So I will be back with those. Definitely check out avalonspirit.com for more insights, as always. And again, if you're wanting to dive into consciousness, check out Cosmic Consciousness. And lastly, I want to say, if you want to expand your own gifts and abilities, I am running Lightworker Mentorship Level 1, followed by Level 2, starting in February. So you can sign up for those on avalonspirit.com if you want to take the live course with me. And if you want to just work at it at your own pace as well, you can sign up and get the online recorded version that you can listen to whenever you're ready, whenever it feels right. So definitely take advantage of those, because this is the year of you. You guys, the light is here. It's the return of the light, the return of your light. And those are some beautiful pathways to find it. So I'll leave it with you guys. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you next week.